OOP's son manages to read his will, and things go downhill from there. I am not OOP. OOP is Kinetic. But his account has been suspended. He originally posted in our relationship advice. Trigger warnings. Mentions of emotional and financial abuse. Allegations of racism. Mood. Infuriating as a reader. Heartbreaking for OOP's son. Less than. Original post. February 5, 2019. I'm going to preface this by saying I love all three of my sons equally. They are 29, 24 and 22. It is my unequivocal truth. It's just that my ex-wife's involvement with my oldest son has really introduced a lot of toxicity and complications in our life. After years of emotional and financial abuse, my wife and I have made a very conscious decision to completely cut my ex-wife out of our lives once my son turned 18. We let him have his relationship with his mother without any interference from us or any negative words. I disagree with a lot of how their relationship is, but I have kept my mouth shut to keep the peace. After losing literally everything after my divorce, I have built a new business with my wife and it's doing very well. All three of our sons work in the business. A week ago, all the kids were over for lunch. I was stupid and left our recently drafted will on my office desk. My oldest son managed to see it. Our company and our home was willed to my two younger sons. My oldest was given a trust that pays out some money every 5 years. I feel like I have to explain myself over why the will was laid out as it was. My ex-wife still has a lot of influence over my son, and at the suggestion of our lawyer, we created the will this way so she couldn't interfere in the company and home. If she were to pass away before us, the will would be immediately rewritten to divide the company, home equally. The plan was to explain this to our son gently and not for him to see it without any context. My son was understandably upset, but his behavior that day exceeded all levels of decency. He stormed downstairs, threw things around and used disgusting language against my wife and I. Our sons nearly got into a fist fight. I am devastated. I have already apologized and forwarded him emails to my lawyer telling him I want the will to be changed to split everything equally. But the damage is done. He's now spreading horrible lies about us and his brothers to everyone in my family, even to the point of accusing us of being racists. He is half Indian, half white. His brothers and my wife and I are so hurt hearing this. It couldn't be any further than the truth. It's the same thing my ex-wife liked to accuse us of over the years. He has refused to come in to work since the past week, and I've been scrambling to do a lot of his work. I don't know how to fix this. He won't take my calls. My ex-wife has used this situation to make absolutely insane posts on Facebook that I am considering legal action over. But I know that will just add gasoline to the fire with regards to my son. I'm not sure how to salvage this, and I am really afraid that some of the things he has said won't easily be forgotten. My younger sons have already been questioned on social media by their cousins about the racism accusations. It's a very uncomfortable thing to approach. My wife is also not over the names she was called by him, even though she says she is. TLDR, my oldest son saw our will and is understandably upset. But now he is accusing us of racism and refusing to hear my side even after I have tried to fix it. Editor's note. This is a pretty hilarious comment that pretty much sums up OOP's situation. Wow. I see you got Reddit silver and 2 golds. No need to guess how you're going to split it. Update post recovered through Reddit. February 6, 2019. I have read everyone's advice and there were many opinions that were very different. But at the end of the day, I do admit this was all my fault and it's on me to make it right. I'm just not sure how. My son showed up to work today to tell me he was leaving for another job. With a heavy heart I accepted. We agreed on a severance package that was just a lump sum payment because he felt I had cheated him by making him invest his time in a company that he was never going to be a part of. I broke down in tears and begged him to reconsider. I tried to explain and promised to be more transparent with the will process, but it seems to be too little, too late. He had some very harsh words for me and made cruel accusations that I treated him poorly over the years and brought up situations I literally had no control over. There were threats of fraud and discrimination and reporting me to the labor board, and I just gave in and went to the bank and had a bank draft made. I felt absolutely defeated because I knew he wasn't going to hear me. I asked if we could go for counseling and he said only if I can give him back the years he wasted in the company. Through it all I did see I hurt him greatly, and I don't think I can ever make it like it was before. Maybe after he's had some space from me I can try contacting him again. My wife and I and his brothers have been uninvited from his wedding in June. I'm completely heartbroken. Flaring this is concluded because OOP's account has since been suspended and because his son has chosen to distance himself from his dad and his family. I have to wonder what the value of the trust that paid out every 5 years was. Was it remotely comparable to a third of the business that the oldest son thought he was going to be a co-owner of one day? There's way too much information missing on this one. My missing reasons alarm is going off. Sometimes I read these and can only react with, what did you think was going to happen? Wholly unreliable narrator Batman. Judging from the son's reaction, I'm guessing that he has felt that he's the least favorite child for years. So he was trustworthy enough to work in the company but not to actually inherit said company. Oop really doesn't seem to understand that his big mistake was taking out his feelings about his ex on his oldest son because he has ties to both his mother and father. This was never going to end well as long as Oop was treating son number 1 so badly due to a fight son number 1 is just a bystander in. I read this story to my elderly father. It sounds like he's punishing his son for talking to his mom. My dad. It sounds like he's punishing his son for existing. I think my dad is right. I think it's pretty hilarious, sad that Oop seems to think there was a gentle way to explain this that would have a different outcome. That said, I totally doubt he ever planned to explain anything. Really sounds like he was planning on the kids not knowing until after he died. I feel like Oop is leaving out a lot of stuff in this story. I feel like his son has been angry at him for a very good reason. I don't know, something just doesn't feel right to me. A very interesting comment on the original post. I've read all of your replies and I have to say, it appears that you may have been the toxic one in this relationship. It turns out the physical confrontation was initiated by your other 2 sons, whilst the only thing you eldest son did was throw the papers and a picture. As you, CJ Will said, he threw a photo and some papers? Your other sons initiated the physical confrontation? You made it sound like your oldest son was an out-of-control monster. You really manipulated the story in the op to spin a negative view of your son. Your ex-wife is sounding more and more right about you. You will never get this relationship back. You're trying way too hard to make the ex-wife to be the boogeyman. But the amount of damage and carnage that my ex-wife has done and still occasionally dissuade me. She manipulates our son still, and I was worried what she'd pull. You're punishing your son for the actions that his mother might take, which might influence your son. You chose his mother. He didn't. Secondly, in one of your replies you stated, "But his accusations have now made it so much more difficult. My wife and kids are so hurt. So am I. He's my son. And he thinks that way about me and family he has grown up with." Let's take a look at your phrasing op. My wife and kids, not my wife and his brothers. The family he's grown up with, and not his family. This may seem subtle to many people, but to me it shows that he really was an outsider to your new family. My wife and kids are so hurt. Are you sure you're writing this post because your son or just because your wife and son are hurt? Thirdly, it will escalate, and I know our lives and business will get ruined if my ex-wife goads my son into becoming more vocal about the accusations. Again comes the if. To me it just became clear now. You hold resentment for your ex-wife, which you took out on your son. You thought if you gave your son your inheritance, the ex-wife may in some way profit off that, and you couldn't bear to watch that happen, especially after she took away everything in the divorce. So you made sure that your son wouldn't get anything, and in turn your ex. Personally, I don't think you're racist, I just think you hold a grudge so bad against your ex you were willing to sacrifice your son for it. P.S. You've said many times that your wife might influence your son, has influence over your son. I'm wondering, what are you afraid of? What do you think he would have done with the money under the influence of mom that would have been so detrimental to you? At least the son found out before his dad died and didn't invest any more of himself into that company or a relationship where he wasn't valued the same as his brothers. Yay, there isn't nearly enough information here to make any sort of judgment. It could go either way depending on any different types of missing reasons. Like how much of the estate would eldest get compared to the others? That felt vague to me. Was the ex-wife actually toxic? Is there actually racism? I can understand the need for having trusts for some people compared to others. My dad received a very restricting trust when my grandpa died, but it was the same value as what my uncle received. The restrictions was also well deserved, though the fact that he was vague makes me think that the eldest son just got less overall. Wills. The day my father died and I read his will was the day that destroyed any feelings I had for him. He left cash gifts to my 2 older daughters, and nothing to my youngest because she has Down syndrome. It was 17 years ago, and I'm still bitter. Lol. Oop is an idiot. Firstly, who the hell just leaves a will sitting on a desk that anyone can come across? Apparently. Secondly, a trust that pays some money every 5 years? What? Not sure in what universe that is fair. If he didn't want the ex-wife to have some say in the company, he should have willed a lump sum of money, equivalent to 1/3 of the value of the company, to the first son. What first son does with the money is none of his business. Just like when anyone dies and leaves money to anyone else. Oops is trying really hard to gain sympathy. I have a funny feeling that the oldest son was working in the business and accepting less than appropriate pay because he saw the business and being partly his in the future. Or possibly just his. If his brothers did not work in the business, then he found out. Hence the resignation, labor board threat and lump payment. I don't understand how Oop expected the will would prevent his ex-crazy wife to intervene in company business. 1. If ex-wife dies first, current will would be rewritten. 2. If Oop dies first, son finds out the inequality and siblings relationship is ruined forever. Family company goes under. 3. If son dies first, again will would need to be rewritten. It seems like Oop wanted to say one final screw you to the ex-wife from beyond the grave, and punished his son instead. It is no wonder his son is not believing him. If I was 29, I would be angry too. Especially if I devoted my whole career to the dad's business. He might need to go back to school and start his career path over again.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.